I'm Torsten, and this is Derval. I play in a band called God is an Astronaut, and Derval does our lights for all our live shows. To make a good light show live, I think it's got to have dynamic.
Each song, to me, there's so many different levels in them. So I like to try and bring that out in kind of an atmospheric way to help with the music from a visual point of view.
Before we play each venue, Derval will look at the specs of the venue to see is it even, will it give the show some kind of justice if we were to perform in that specific venue. And if it doesn't, we normally would insist on hiring some lights in. And unfortunately, we've had to nearly do that in nearly every single US show, which is kind of a shame. But we have so much of our own lights at home that to be able to bring that show here is virtually impossible. So once we got the specifications, Derval would then, with our console, we'll have to put all the different addresses and all the the different kind of fixtures into and patch it all in before we even arrive.
I bring my own light show with me, and I introduce it to, I integrate it into each venue then that I'm in, because every venue is so different. Like the size of the venue has a huge bearing on the effect of what I've done, and the types of lights that are in there. Some of them they're really great, and some of them are really crap. So I just have to just go with it, basically. Well, today especially, we got these, I have 4 spots in my own little rig, and 4 effects lights, and a strobe, of course, and my hazer and that. But coming over here, I could only bring 2 of my effects lights, which are okay. Like they'll work because they're quite strong output with light itself. And then the 4 spots, I couldn't bring it all, obviously, because of logistics. We just couldn't bring them over. So that's where the hire company come in, and they give us 4, whatever best spots they can get for us instead. And I can only get them to match the closest whatever they give me. So I exchange, basically, it's a technical word in the Avalites console, where you do a fixture exchange, which a lot of touring LDs do, where they can keep the same show file and just exchange the fixtures, that is the lights, the moving head lights, into their programming. Some of it will go into the lights, if you get me, into the exchange lights, and it'll work. And some of the stuff that I've programmed won't work. Something like maybe colors won't work, or focusing mightn't work, and it's an ordeal. And some LDs will say, why are you doing so much of this? It's like, and there is an easy way to do it, but it's the only way I know how to do it. But for me, it's the most comfortable way, because it's more hands-on. I prefer like that. It's like mixing my own palette of paints when I'm painting. It's, as opposed to, like the paints that you buy pre-made and whatnot. But I might go through a whole show thinking, this is so crap, I didn't do this and da-da-da, and it didn't do what I wanted to do, whatever. But no, when people come up afterwards, they're really good, and they're so encouraging, and I'm like going, oh my God, people really liked it. And it's not about that, but I'm just glad that it worked for the music and for the show, because that's what's most important, essentially.
We also want to make sure it's about the music and not about an individual person on the stage. We like to the music needs to do a lot of the talking. Even though we do obviously play off each other, and there's a lot of chemistry between the musicians, but the most important thing is the overall picture. What really kind of inspires us with the different colors and the different for us, I think it's definitely nature is one of the main things that inspires the kind of colors and different things that we'd like to look at, just from looking at outer space, the skies, to the lovely Glen. We come from the Glen of Downs in County Wicklow. The colors that are in the sky, the colors in the trees, the sunsets, all the music.
And a lot of fog in the forest trees as well, like that forest and mountain mist. I think that probably is what I really want to create when we have the haze and all that going on. And there's a thing that I do with the hazer, which there's 2 things you can do with a hazer. There's the smoke that comes out, and then there's the fan. For me, the fan is what's sort of like it's creating. I see it as like a wind or a breeze, that kind of way. So some parts of the song I might slow it down, and then the fog just seems to get slowly settles. And then, sometimes then I just want to just fill it right up and just go for it.
One of the things, different songs would suit different environments. one song that we play, Frozen Twilight, has this kind of wintry effect, and blues and greens and those kind of colors really suit those kind of songs. If it's kind of like a heavier song, with the color of red, which is almost like representing, I guess, the more sinister side of things.
When it comes to, like, say, the punch down in like a particular song, sometimes there's a very it's a specific part of the song where it breaks down and stuff like that, and it can get really heavy. But like I say, there's a lot of parts in there that people don't kind of focus on. So that's what I try to bring that up with the lights as well. So the hard parts will be there, they'll be just full on, but I'll also bring in something from the house lights maybe, or from some of what I've already programmed on the ground as well, like a different, like a speed up versions, and then like real fast versions, and then a slow version of something. Or I might frost something. Frost is like a whole beam of light is out there in the background, and then these big eventful lights are coming out of it, if you get me. And again, it's like just trying to create this sort of atmosphere, but it covers everything in it, if you get me, that you're hearing.
To kind of get the emotion of sadness across with the lights is it's kind of less is more sometimes with that. If you're flashing lights left and right and center, and you're making it like a typical rock show, it doesn't work. The emotion is completely gone in those moments. So I think in that scenario, it's the speed of the light, the colors that you choose for the specific song. If it's dark subject matter, the last thing you want is a lot of pink lights and a lot of that kind of color. So you want to kind of work with the more mundane colors that you could probably talk about.
Yeah, well, I go with mostly whites, especially, and blues and things like that. Blues, like, I know I'm not too into color theory itself, but color, most people know that blue is quite a calming color, and red is kind of it's like rage and stuff like that. I don't get that sometimes, but it depends, I think, on how you use the color with the rhythm and the movement, the speed of the movement that's put in. Like, again, if it's a frosted effect of light, or if it's that real shapely effect that you can get, and almost like lasery effect. It all depends. Like, I mean, I think the shapes of what you do with the lights is as important as the color, and the movement of the whole thing, I think, has to work together in a sense to get across what the song is basically saying, and that.
Yeah, I think, like, for example, if you've got like a song and there's a kind of a drum pattern, and a lot of lighting engineers in the past that have worked with us will start tapping to the actual pattern of the beat. Derval doesn't do that. Derval looks at the subject matter, and maybe the pattern of the drum beat isn't the most important thing. Maybe it's the music. For example, a lot of our songs might have a double time drum beat, but the music's played in half. So if we're trying to push the more ambient side of that, Derval will slow the lights down to suit the music rather than just going with the fast pattern on the drum set. So I think tempos are really, really important, and it's also, things can get boring very quickly if you keep giving, if you give everything right at the beginning. Emotions essentially become blurred. So Derval's really good at, when it's not much happening, it starts to lessen the lights, but never to a point that it doesn't feel like you're not doing a really good job, I guess.